Chapter 4005. There was no nervousness in her eyes when she encountered danger, only excitement and anticipation. As long as she got the item, she could go back, and it was obvious that the item she was looking for was inside. Her clear eyes were filled with joy, and her gaze swept past the small arrow holes that had instantly recovered on the wall. Under the circumstances where the arrows did not hit anyone, they all shot into the other party's arrow holes, and the small arrow holes on the wall were also restored to their original state. However, she stood there and did not move. Instead, she vigilantly stared at the ground and her surroundings. There was a mechanism in the passageway that led to the cave dwelling, so there must be another mechanism waiting inside. She had to take a look first, in case she left any traces that would alert the old man. After all, she did not know if she could find what she was looking for today. She looked around carefully and couldn't help pursing her lips into a smile. She turned around and walked forward. Some took big steps, some took small steps, some slightly to the left, and some lightly brushed past. After walking around and familiarizing herself with the surroundings, she went from the outer room to the inner room. When she entered, she realized that there was a completely different world inside the cave dwelling. There was a door on the left side of the cave dwelling, and behind that door was a cliff. When she saw the cliff outside the door, her eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. Why did this old man open a door here? This place was located at a high place, and once the door was open, there was a cliff, so it was not possible to go out for a walk. The only reasonable thing was that it could be used for running. Perhaps this old man did not usually leave through the main door, but through the back door? She stretched her head slightly to look down the cliff, and could faintly hear the sound of water coming from below the cliff. Retracting her gaze, she turned her attention back to the cave dwelling, and after sweeping her gaze around, she began to search. Because she could not be found out that someone had entered, her movements were relatively small, and she tried her best not to mess up the furnishings and not leave any traces of her searching. However, after searching for 2 rounds, she did not find what she was looking for. Where did this old man hide it? She muttered softly. She crossed her arms and stared at the walls around her. She had searched and knocked on the walls, but she didn't find anything. Where could the thing be hidden in such a small place? It cannot be on him, right? On the other side, in Fengjiu's courtyard. After Elder he came back, he lay down for a while and tossed and turned, but he was unable to fall asleep. He immediately jumped up and sat cross-legged on the bed for a while, thinking about what kind of person had infiltrated their sect. Since no one was talking, he got up and put on his clothes before going to the courtyard outside. Junior Brother Juan? Junior Brother Juan, are you asleep? No one in Fengjiu's room responded, as if there was no one there. The man surnamed he called out for a while, but didn't hear a response. He couldn't help but walk over to the door of the room. He reached out and knocked on the door. Junior Juan? Junior Juan? I'm here. A weak voice came from the room. The man with the surname He, who was leaning against the door, was startled. He forcefully pushed the door open and walked in. When he came in, he saw a person lying behind the bed curtains. The person was wrapped up in a blanket, only revealing his head. Junior Juan, what happened to you? The man surnamed He asked as he stared at the person on the bed. I've been feeling unwell ever since I came back. Is something the matter, Senior Brother He? The person on the bed asked. Chapter 4006. It's fine if you're weaker than others, but I didn't expect your physique to be so weak as well. All right, if you're not feeling well, then go back to sleep. He said disdainfully. He did not even ask if they should send someone to take a look at her. Instead, he turned around and walked out. The puppet on the bed did not move. It only glanced at him once. After he left, it closed its eyes and went back to sleep. In the great hall, when the old man heard their so-called idea, his already dark expression turned even darker. He swept his cold gaze across the crowd and said, "This idea won't work. Use the Heart Sutra to lure that person out? Even if that person really is Fengjiu, I can't possibly use the real Heart Sutra as bait." Hearing this, the crowd sighed and looked at each other. One of them said, "But Sect Master, that person hasn't made a single move. If we don't do anything, are we just going to let her continue to lie in wait?" A bloodthirsty and cold murderous intent flashed across the old man's eyes. He said gloomily, "As long as she's still in the sect, she'll definitely make a move. I don't believe that she'll be able to endure this forever. Furthermore, if that person really is Fengjiu, then she can't possibly continue to lie in wait and not make a move." Hearing this, the crowd looked at him and asked, "What do you plan to do, Sect Master?" The old man paused for a moment, then said, "Doesn't that Fengjiu have a son and a daughter? If we can't find her, won't we make a move on the people around her?" The crowd was startled and looked at each other. Actually, it wasn't that they hadn't thought of this. However, with their cultivation, if they were to leave this place, they would be the overlords of a region. They really couldn't be bothered to make a move on a new disciple. That was why they didn't mention this idea. They didn't expect that the first person to say it would be their sect master. "What? My idea isn't good?" The old man's malicious gaze swept across the crowd. "Sect master, we'll go back and make the arrangements." The crowd hurriedly stood up and said, "Wait." The old man looked at them and said, "If Fengjiu is still hiding here, then we have to be careful not to let her escape. The people we send out to carry out this mission must be carefully selected. Don't send out any random disciples. Those who go out must be at least venerable ones in the sect." Above the venerable realm, everyone was stunned and exclaimed in a low voice. It should be known that in their sect master's office, venerables were allowed to accept disciples. In the sect, there were a total of 43 venerables. These people could be said to be the people who often walked around the sect master. Those who were sitting here were venerables and above. Usually, they wouldn't appear in the sect at all because they were the main figures in the sect. But now, the people who were sent out were venerables and above. Didn't this mean that perhaps some of them would also have to go out and carry out this mission? That's right. Don't send any disciples out. If you want to go, you have to be above the venerable realm. Pick 15 venerables, and 3 to 5 of you will go. The old man said in a deep voice. He looked at them and said, "That Fengjiu's people are all extremely strong. If you go out, you might be able to fight against them." Hearing this, the crowd didn't say anything. They were a little hesitant to go. They all knew that Fengjiu's husband was the Azure Dragon Sovereign. Apart from that, there were also Fengjiu's strong subordinates. If they went, they might not be able to return. Chapter 4007. The old man glanced at them. Seeing that none of them spoke, he said, "Then let's draw lots to decide. This is the fairest way. Pick 3 of you to lead the team, and you can pick the venerables below." He stood up with his walking stick and glanced at them. "If there's nothing important, don't disturb me." With that, he walked out. When the crowd saw this, they could only do as he said. In the end, 3 people were selected by drawing lots. The 3 people who received the paper with the words "go" on its side inwardly. They looked at each other helplessly and could only leave to make arrangements. While Fengjiu was still searching around the cave, she heard movement outside. With a thought, she immediately entered the space. Since she couldn't find it, she could only hide in the space and see where the old man hid it. Otherwise, she didn't know when she would find any clues. The old man opened the stone door and walked in. As soon as he entered, he felt the wind in the immortal's cave. He stopped, and a dark light flashed in his cold eyes. He looked around, but he didn't find anything. His gaze calmly swept through the other places in the cave, including some subtle places. He frowned slightly and spoke with a voice that contained spirit force. "What are you waiting for?" Lu Ming asked with a frown. "Did anyone come by just now?" The 2 cultivators guarding outside were startled. They quickly turned around and bowed in the direction of the cave. "Sect Master, no one came." Hearing this, the old man's frown didn't loosen. He continued to ask, "After I left, was there any movement in the surroundings?" "No," the 2 cultivators said in unison. In the space, Fengjiu's eyes flickered as she listened to the sound outside. Since he left, there was naturally no movement in the surroundings outside. This was because long before he left, she was already lurking around the cave. However, she was so careful, but the old man was still able to sense that someone had come in. This keen sense really made her not dare to let down her guard. In the space, she could only release a tiny wisp of her divine sense to explore everything outside. Now, the old man was inside the cave, so the situation was different from when she was outside the cave. Therefore, she could only quietly withdraw that wisp of divine sense. After withdrawing that strand of divine sense, she was no longer aware of anything outside. She exhaled softly. Only then did she realize that she had been tense all this time. At this moment, she relaxed and felt that this matter was even more troublesome. With the old man's cultivation, if she kept releasing her divine sense to stare at him, she would definitely be discovered. However, if she didn't release her divine sense, she wouldn't know anything. What's more, she couldn't find those two things after searching for so long in the cave. She really didn't know where he hid them. In the cave, the old man opened the door and stood at the edge of the cliff. He looked at the sky outside with his hands behind his back. No one knew what he was thinking. After a while, he took a deep breath and walked down the cliff. Chapter 4008. In the space, Fengjiu's eyes moved slightly. She saw that after the old man sat down, he took out a book from his sleeve. Then he took out another thick book and a piece of paper. He flipped through the book and translated the scriptures. She quietly withdrew her divine sense and suddenly said, "So the old man hid the things under the cliff?" She patted her head and was a little annoyed. "Why didn't I go down and look for it? Maybe both of them are under the cliff. Master, should we go out and snatch it?" Lao Bai came over and circled around her. Fengjiu glanced at it and said, "Rob, we haven't seen the Saraira yet. If we go out now, we will only alert the enemy. There is no benefit at all. What's more, the old man is very powerful. Master, you're also very powerful. You don't have to be afraid of him. What's more, you have us," White said disapprovingly. Fengjiu shook her head and said, "My strength has not recovered yet. His strength is even stronger than that of Lord Azura and the others. From the momentum that he inadvertently exudes, we can know that this man is not easy to deal with. Master, didn't you say that there is no Lord of heaven and earth in this area? Didn't you say that there are not many experts in this area? If there is an expert at the Divine King realm, why did they leave this area alone?" Tun Yun, who was lying on the side, asked. Hearing this, a thoughtful look appeared on Fengjiu's face. "Yes, it's really strange. When we first arrived, we didn't meet any experts, let alone the existence of a Divine King realm expert. However, when we came to this area, we accidentally met Lord Azura and the master behind the auction. Both of them are at the Divine King realm, but they are not at the peak." She paused and said, "It's one thing for the people in the Myriad Buddha's sect to not fight for the Saraira, but the master of this hidden sect is obviously very powerful. Why is he willing to live in seclusion? Since he is living in seclusion, why does he try so hard to rob the Saraira and Heart Sutra of the Myriad Buddha's sect? What is he trying to do?" After a while, she once again released a strand of divine sense. Perhaps it was because the other party was focused on the translation, or perhaps he was confident that it was impossible for anyone to remain undetected right under his nose. Therefore, when Fengjiu released that strand of divine sense, the other party did not detect it. She stayed there until midnight. Only then did the old man who was focused on translating put away the item, open the door, and walked out. This made her even more certain that the Heart Sutra was hidden below. However, the other party did not go out after coming back. For 2 days in a row, he did not come out, which made her a little anxious. The puppet in her room could only last for 7 days. If she did not return after 7 days, it would be troublesome. In the space, she had found out the whereabouts of the Heart Sutra, but she had never seen the old man take out the Saraira. On the other side, in the courtyard, the man surnamed he walked out of the room and could not help but look at the room opposite. The door had been closed for several days. Was the man surnamed Ruan dead or still lying in bed? Thinking of this, he went forward and knocked on the door. "Junior brother Ruan, how are you? Have you recovered?" Chapter 4009. Senior Fellow Apprentice He. The man surnamed, he was startled. After taking a closer look, it seemed that there was no big problem, so he waved his hand and said, "It's good that you're fine. Anyway, I've taken 3 elixirs from you. If anything happens to you, I'll have to take care of you. Thank you, senior fellow apprentice he. I'm much better now, and I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. Hearing this, the man surnamed he glanced at him and said, Okay, I know. Go. Then he turned around and left. After he left, the door closed again. His eyes, which were still full of vigor, became dull. After locking the door, he condensed a bounded domain to protect the place with his hands. Then he walked back to the bed and sat down. In the space, Fengjiu was sitting cross-legged at this time. A mark disappeared between her hands, and a thin layer of sweat oozed out of her forehead. She exhaled softly and slowly opened her eyes. She only hoped that she could hold on for a few more days like this. On this day, the old man finally walked out of the cave after hearing the news from outside. Fengjiu didn't know what he was going to do, but after he left, she quickly came out of the space and went to the cliff behind, looking down. She didn't go down directly to the bottom of the cliff, but searched on the cliff wall. Finally, she found a small cave when she was 1/3 of the way down the cliff. The cave was not big. It was so small that even a child couldn't get in. It was only about the length of an arm. There were some weeds outside the cave, so it was difficult to find it if one didn't look carefully. To her surprise, there was only a wooden box in the small cave. When she opened it, there was only a yellowed book in it. This book was the Heart Sutra of the Myriad Buddhist sect. It's really here. She couldn't help but smile. She intended to take it and put it into the space. However, her hand holding the Heart Sutra paused. She thought that the old man would take out the Heart Sutra to translate in 2 or 3 days. In an instant, several thoughts flashed through her mind. A sly light flashed in her clear eyes. The next moment, she put the book into the space and then blocked the entrance of the cave. On the other side, the old man arrived at the main hall, and when he saw the solemn expressions on everyone's faces, he asked, "What happened now?" Everyone looked at him, paused for a moment, then said, "Sect Master, the people we sent out yesterday found the whereabouts of Fengjiu's sons. They sent back a message, but until today, there's been no news." Hearing this, the sect master's face instantly turned cold. As soon as he released his sinister aura, the atmosphere in the hall turned cold. No one dared to say a word. They just frowned and held their breaths. "Are you saying that they're all dead?" The old man's cold voice was bloodthirsty and ruthless. His sharp and cold eyes stared at them as he shouted in a deep voice, "Speak." As soon as the voice came out, the powerful pressure it contained also spread out. The stern shout shook their hearts, and cold sweat seeped out of their foreheads. They should all be dead. I received a jade message from one of them. At that time, he wanted to ask us for help, but before he could finish his sentence, a middle-aged man said, not daring to look at the sect master. Chapter 40:10. Not to mention the strength of the Venerable Ones. Even the strength of the 3 Venerable Ones who led the group was extremely strong amongst them. Yet they had suddenly vanished just like that. How could they not be shocked and uneasy? It was said that the ghost Dr. Fengjiu was extremely powerful, and there were no weak soldiers under her command. Every one of her subordinates was a powerful cultivator who could stand on their own. A few days ago, they had even sneered at her, thinking that she was just a woman. However, when it happened, their first reaction was shock and unease. The old man was silent. He held his walking stick with both hands and asked, "Has there been any movement in the sect these few days?" "No." One of them shook his head and said in confusion, "This is what we find strange. Logically speaking, that person shouldn't have left yet. However, there's been no movement at all recently. It's as if she's never appeared." Another person hesitated and said, "Could it be that this person isn't Fengjiu and has already left after we discovered her?" "Impossible. She must still be in there. We just don't know where she's hiding." The old man said with certainty, then said to them, "Don't let down the sect's guard. Search carefully. We must find her." He paused, and a sinister and calculating look flashed across his sharp eyes. He said, "As for how to lure her out, I already have an idea." Hearing this, the people in the hall looked at each other. Then their gazes fell on the old man. They asked in confusion, "What idea?" "You just need to spread the news that we've caught Fengjiu's son and daughter. When that time comes, do you think she won't appear?" The old man said sinisterly, his eyes filled with calculation. "But we haven't caught her children. In the sect, even children are hard to find." Another person said, feeling that this idea was not very good. "If you don't have children, go out and find them. Bring 2 children back. Who knows, maybe it'll work." The old man stood up and walked forward with his walking stick. He instructed, "Do it as soon as possible." The people in the hall watched him leave and could not help but sigh softly. This isn't an easy job. If we don't do it well, we'll lose our lives. They're all dead. If we don't stay alert, something bad will definitely happen. One of them said as he looked in the direction the sect leader had left. "I only hope that this matter will be over soon. Then, the sect leader will take out the Heart Sutra for us to cultivate. We'll have our share of life-risking matters. Things like cultivating the Heart Sutra. I think it'll be very difficult for us to have a chance." Another man sneered and walked out with his hands clasped behind his back. After the old man returned to his cave abode, he walked around the cave abode for a while before sitting down to cultivate. He spent 2 days cultivating. After 2 days, he opened the door and looked down the cliff. In the next moment, he leaped down. When he arrived in front of the small hole, he opened the box. When he saw that the Heart Sutra was still there, a rare smile appeared on his face. He picked up the Heart Sutra and went up. After sitting down at the table, he took out something and began to translate and write. When Fengjiu saw this scene in the space, she couldn't help but reveal a smile. Right now, she only needed to wait. She believed that she would see the results very soon. She only hoped that the results would not disappoint her. Chapter 4011. "Is it like this here?" The old man murmured. He looked at the Sanskrit on the Heart Sutra and then looked at the translated words. After confirming it repeatedly, he wrote down the translated words. In the space, Fengjiu smiled slightly. Perhaps Sanskrit needed to be specially learned and translated for them. But for her, who came from the 21st century and was knowledgeable, it was not difficult for her to understand Sanskrit. Therefore, she could easily change the words without leaving any trace. She withdrew that small wisp of divine awareness and sat down in the space. She took out the Heart Sutra beside her, and her eyes moved slightly. It was not that she wanted to learn it secretly, but she had memorized all the words in the fake Heart Sutra. After all, even if she wanted to make a fake one, she could not really replace all the contents. She could only mix up the contents. As for the content behind the Heart Sutra, she believed that the old man could not translate it in a short time. Now, the Heart Sutra was in her hand, but where would the Saraira be hidden? After staying here for so long, she only saw the old man take out the Heart Sutra, but she did not see him take out the Saraira. At present, she could not leave for a while, so she closed her eyes and began to practice in the space. Perhaps because she had read the Heart Sutra, the content of the Heart Sutra naturally jumped into her mind when she was practicing, and her breathing also changed with the contents of the Heart Sutra. She frowned slightly and slowly opened her eyes. She had just read it once, but when she was practicing, her breath and cultivation method also followed the surging of her Heart Sutra. It seemed that there was no change, but only she knew that when she was practicing, the Heart Sutra of the Myriad Buddhist sect seemed to naturally replace the Heart Sutra that she was practicing, which also made her practice speed increase rapidly. However, she felt that something was wrong. Her eyes fell on the Heart Sutra beside her. She frowned slightly, and a touch of deep thought flashed across her clear eyes. Normally, the Heart Sutra of the Buddhist sect should be a tranquil and peaceful existence, and it would not have the kind of overbearing reaction that overpowered other Heart Sutras. However, when she was practicing, even if she did not think about the Heart Sutra in her mind, the Heart Sutra would silently induce her practice. "Master, what's wrong?" Seeing her like this, the ordinary swallow cloud came over to ask. Fengjiu glanced at it and said, "It's nothing. I just feel that there's something wrong with this Buddhist mantra." When Lao Bai heard her speak, he came over and looked at the Heart Sutra. He asked, "What's wrong? Is it fake?" As it said that, it seemed to have thought of something and asked curiously, "Master, Will the old man outside find out that the book you burned is fake? I won't. Fengjiu smiled and said, other than the content, everything else about that book is the same. He won't be able to tell. She picked up the Heart Sutra and casually flipped through it. In her mind, she was wondering why this Heart Sutra was so strange. Master, what is so strange about this Heart Sutra? Tunyin asked. Fengjiu lifted the heart and said thoughtfully, I don't know if it's my misconception, but this Buddhist Heart Sutra has a demonic nature. As long as you read this Heart Sutra, you will be influenced by it and will involuntarily practice its Heart Sutra. Chapter 40:12. This thing is strange. Is it really a Buddhist Heart Sutra? She softly muttered and put the Heart Sutra to the side. She felt that she shouldn't look at it too much and think about it too much. Otherwise, sooner or later, there would be problems. That's right. She felt that there was a problem with this Heart Sutra. The problem wasn't that this Heart Sutra was fake, but that there was a problem with this Heart Sutra itself. Another 2 days passed here. Fengjiu, who was in the space, didn't know what was happening outside. In these 2 days, she finally managed to ignore the disturbance of the Buddhist Heart Sutra and calmed her heart to cultivate. At the same time, she was also waiting for the old man to leave the cave. On this day, early in the morning, in a house in the city, Xianyuan Mose was reading a book in the courtyard. At the same time, he was looking at the pair of children who were dancing on the small bed. Every time his cold gaze fell on the 2 children, it would involuntarily turn gentle and doting. When he saw his daughter pulling his son's clenched fist and stuffing it into her mouth, he laughed softly and shook his head. He put down the book in his hand and went forward to carry his daughter out. Are you hungry? As if afraid of scaring his daughter, he asked in a soft voice. Ah. The little one opened her mouth and laughed without teeth. She went forward and leaned on Xianyuan Mose's chest, wanting to find something to eat. The corner of Xianyuan Mose's mouth slightly hooked up. Looking at his daughter, his eyes were full of ridicule. Look carefully. I'm daddy, not mommy. Hee. The little one giggled, and her saliva stained Xianyuan Mose's lapel. Looking at the saliva on his lapel, Xianyuan Mose's heart was very subtle. With his purity, he didn't seem to resist his daughter's saliva. No, it should be said that he didn't dislike it, because this was his son's saliva and not someone else's. Qingcheng, go prepare some food. Xianyuan Mose looked at Bai Qingcheng, who was waiting at the side, and ordered. Yes. Bai Qingcheng responded and walked out. Leng Hua and Du Fan walked in from outside. After glancing at Hui Lang, Ying Yi, and Leng Shuang, they bowed to Xianyuan Mose. Yama Lord, how is it? Xianyuan Mose asked as he held his daughter's hand. I've investigated thoroughly. Those people are from that hidden sect. However, after this incident, they didn't send anyone else. I don't know what they're up to. Du Fan said as his gaze fell on Xianyuan Mose. Xianyuan Mose looked up at them and asked, Did your master send you any news? No. The two shook their heads. After a pause, Leng Hua said, Yama Lord, should we go and help our master? According to what we've heard in the past 2 days, the strength of the master of this hidden sect is unfathomable. I'm afraid that with our master's current strength, it'll be difficult for her to resist. If something really happens, she'll be alone outside without anyone to help her. Xianyuan Mose's gaze fell on his daughter in his arms, and his eyes flashed. It wasn't that he didn't want to help her, but he knew that she valued her own safety more than the safety of her 2 children. If he went and handed the children over to them, not to mention her, even he wouldn't be at ease. After remaining silent for a long time, he said, This area is filled with all sorts of people, and there are many experts that are unknown to the world. Since that's the case, let's borrow their strength and wipe out this hidden sect. Chapter 40:13. Xianyuan Mose raised his eyes and looked ahead. His deep voice was filled with pressure as he slowly said, In the name of the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, I send out a hero's invitation and invite the experts of this region to come forward and help. Their hearts trembled as they recalled the scene of their master using the name of the phoenix Dr. Fengjiu to invite experts from all over the world to help during the great battle back then. However, the situation today could not be compared to that time. If they sent out a hero's invitation, wouldn't it be too? Thinking of this, Lung Hua and Du Fan looked at each other. Then, Du Fan opened his mouth and asked, Yamalor, compared to the battle back then, this hidden sect today can only be said to pale in comparison. It's not worth mentioning. In fact, with our strength, we could destroy this hidden sect on our own. If we use the name of the ghost, Dr. Fengjiu, to summon experts from all over the world, wouldn't we be thinking too highly of this hidden sect? No. After he placed his daughter back on the small bed, he stood with his hands behind his back and looked at them. I'm not doing this just to destroy that hidden sect. I'm taking advantage of the situation and paving the way for Agio. He walked as he said, this region is not under anyone's control yet. Since that's the case, if she accepts it, it will only be beneficial for her. And right now, there's such an opportunity. Hearing this, they finally understood. So this was his plan. However, if we send out a hero's invitation, the news will spread to those hidden sect experts. It will probably take a lot of time, and they won't be able to help master it all. As Long Hua spoke, he looked at Xinyuan Mose and said, there's one more thing. I'm afraid that these people will come with ill intentions and fish in troubled waters. Xinyuan Mose nodded and said, so you have to arrange and keep an eye on these things. We need to use them when the time comes to wipe out the reclusive sect. You have to know that 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. We don't have many people with us, while the other side is only one sect. They may have the help of other sects that are on good terms with them. This is what we need to guard against. As for Agio, I'm still a little worried, even though Devouring Cloud and the others are with her. I sent the Fire Phoenix to check on the situation the day the people from the hidden sect sent people to deal with us. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. No wonder they hadn't seen the Fire Phoenix for the past 2 days. So it had gone to the hidden sect? That was good too. It could transform into a small bird and wouldn't attract attention. It was also strong. If it went to the sect and found its master, it would definitely be able to protect her. That monk has been staying in the house all this while. Xinyuan Mose asked as he looked at the 2 of them. I've been here the whole time. I didn't go out, Lung Hua said. You 2 go and arrange this matter. Also go and invite him over. Tell him that I want to play a few games of chess with him. Xinyuan Mose said and motioned for the 2 of them to leave. Yes. The 2 of them answered and left. Bai Qingxiang brought the food over. Huilang quickly stepped forward and said with a smile, Master, if you play chess with that monk, I'll help feed the little masters. Looking at the 2 little masters' white and tender, adorable appearance, he was extremely fond of them. However, these 2 little fellows did not like him very much. When they were carried by him, they would either cry or make a fuss. Otherwise, they would pee all over him. In fact, he was also very helpless. Xinyuan Mose glanced at him and said, Go. After you're full, coax them to sleep. Chapter 40:14. Not long after, the monk walked in slowly. He put his palms together and bowed to Xinyuan Mose. Greetings, benefactor. Master, please take a seat. Xinyuan Mose gestured. He had already set up the chessboard. Lung Shuang served 2 cups of hot tea and then retreated to the side. The monk slowly walked forward and sat down. When he heard the 2 children's giggling, he looked sideways. He saw that the 2 chubby children were being fed in their arms. There was a smile on their delicate faces. There was only joy and carefree in their pure eyes, as well as curiosity about the world. Seeing this, he sighed softly in his heart. He shook his head secretly and withdrew his gaze. He murmured Amitabha in his heart. Xinyuan Mose's gaze fell on him. He saw that after he sat down, he looked at the 2 children. When a trace of pity and pity flashed in his peaceful eyes, a deep light flashed in his eyes. His deep black eyes glanced at the pair of children and then fell on the monk. There was a trace of thoughtfulness on his face. The monk looked at the 2 children with a strange gaze. That feeling made him a little unhappy and a little uneasy. His and Aju's children were dragons and phoenixes among men from the moment they were born. From the moment they were born, their starting point was far higher than many people in the world. When they were born, they were blessed by experts from all over the world. In addition, the two children were also cute and had their own characteristics. But why was the monk looking at them with pity and pity in his eyes? He retracted his gaze and hid the expression in his eyes. He picked up the tea beside him and took a sip. Then he asked casually, "Master, you've been living with us for a while now. What do you think of our son and daughter?" Hearing this, the others in the courtyard were a little confused. What about their little master? He was naturally a proud son of God, a dragon and phoenix among men. Why did he need to ask the monk? When the monk heard Xianyuan Mo's words, he only glanced at him. Then he put his palms together and murmured, "Umitba, the children of the emperor and Fengxing are naturally blessed. Ordinary people can't compare to them." Xianyuan Mo played with the teacup and didn't look at him. He only said slowly, "Oh, is that so? But why do I see a trace of pity and pity in the master's eyes when he looks at them?" As soon as he finished speaking, he looked up at the monk opposite him. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. His eyes were still cold. "Master, can you clear my doubts?" The monk paused and pursed his lips. He didn't say a word for a long time. When Lung Shuang, Grey Wolf, and the others heard this, they could not help but look at each other in surprise. They did not quite understand. What was going on? "What? Is it difficult to speak?" Xianyuan Mo asked, pressing him step by step. The monk felt the aura in the air become colder. He felt that the cold aura released from his body was very frightening. The kind of pressure spread out. Even he couldn't help but feel as if a huge rock was pressing on his chest, making it difficult for him to breathe. "Umitba, benefactor, it's not that I don't want to speak, but the secrets of heaven can't be revealed." He shook his head and sighed with a helpless expression. Chapter 40:15. The monk sighed softly and said, "Benefactor, this poor monk has already said that heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. Even if you say it, it's useless. What will come will come. If it's a blessing, it's not a disaster. If it's a disaster, it can't be avoided. Umitba." He stood up and said, "Sure, Xion's temperament is not stable. Let's play chess another day. This poor monk will return to the courtyard first." He bowed and left without waiting for him to speak. Seeing him leave, the people in the courtyard looked at each other. Because of his words, their mood became a little heavy. This monk only said half of it and didn't say half. It really made people feel uneasy. Huilang saw his master's ugly expression and said, "Master, you don't have to take this monk's words too seriously. The two little masters have master and madam's protection. They will definitely grow up safely. In this world, there is no one who can hurt them under master and madam's eyes." Xianyuan Mo didn't say anything. He just held the teacup in his hand and remained silent. Although he didn't want to believe it, he had to be careful when it came to the two children. But what was it that made that monk always put on an expression that said heaven's secrets couldn't be revealed? Suppressing the thoughts in his heart, he decided to take Fengjiu and his son and daughter back after dealing with the matters here. As long as Fengjiu became the master of this world and opened a path to immortality in this heaven realm, it would be able to lead to the world where they originally lived. This way, it would be much more convenient for them to travel back and forth in the future. At this time, Fengjiu, who was in the sex space, didn't know what was happening outside. She was in the middle of cultivation. Today, after she restrained her spiritual aura, she slowly exhaled and opened her eyes. Ever since she was injured that year, her strength had regressed and increased again. Because she didn't use pills to increase her strength, every step of cultivation was more difficult than before. This was because her opponent this time was the sect master of the hidden sect. That old man's strength was somewhat unfathomable. She hoped that her strength could increase a little more so that she would not be at a disadvantage when the time came. However, her recent cultivation had only allowed her strength to reach the peak of the immortal emperor realm. She was still unable to reach the heavenly god realm. If it was anyone else, perhaps she would not be too worried. However, her opponent was the old man. She was a little uncertain. Faintly, she felt that if the monk had said that she would face a bloody calamity on this trip, It should have happened in this sect. Even so, she had to get the Saraira, return it to the Myriad Buddha's sect, and put an end to this matter, even if she had to risk a bloody disaster. After suppressing her thoughts, she released a strand of her divine sense to check outside. She saw that the old man was still sitting cross-legged in the cave and cultivating. She sighed in her heart. If the old man didn't go out, it wouldn't be good for her to go out either. And that Saraira, where did he hide it? She had been keeping an eye on the cave for the past few days. It could be said that there were no hidden compartments in the cave residence. The Saraira could not be placed outside the cliff behind the stone door. Then where could it be? She calmed down and thought, if it was her, where would she hide the relic? Chapter 40:16. However, if she couldn't keep it on her body and couldn't hide in the cave, then she could only keep it under her nose, a place that could make her feel at ease. As soon as this thought flashed through her mind, her heart moved. Under her nose, a place that could make her feel at ease? There weren't many places like this, and the scope of her search had been reduced by a lot. Her gaze followed the strand of divine sense and looked outside. Her gaze fell on the old man, who was cultivating. After sweeping a circle around him, she looked at a place 1 meter away from him. When her gaze swept past him, she saw that there were very ordinary things around her. There was no place to hide anything. Just as she was feeling puzzled, she suddenly saw the old man open his eyes. He seemed to have noticed something and glanced around. At that moment, she immediately stopped her divine sense and watched quietly without moving at all. The old man frowned and looked around. He pursed his lips and stood up. He brushed his robe and walked out. With a move of his hand, he used his spirit force to draw the walking stick from the side of the wall into his palm. Then he supported himself with the walking stick and walked out step by step. Looking at this scene, Fengjiu's eyes narrowed. The thing that she had been ignoring clearly leaped into her eyes at this moment. Yes, why didn't she think of the walking stick in the old man's hand? That was something that never left his hand, and that walking stick itself was an immortal tool. Could the relic be hidden in that walking stick? The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. Besides the walking stick that never left his hand, there seemed to be no other place that could make him feel more at ease to put away the relic. Sensing that the old man had gone outside, she waited for a while before releasing her divine sense. After detecting that he was no longer outside the cave, she walked out of the space in a flash. Her gaze swept around the cave, paused for a moment, and then quietly walked out. However, just as she walked out of the cave, a fierce wind blade formed into a stream of air and suddenly attacked her from the side. The monstrous, murderous aura contained in it was extremely terrifying. Almost at that moment, all the hair on her body stood up. Her body reacted instinctively and quickly retreated. At the same time, her palm condensed a stream of air and attacked it. Oh, bang! The fierce airflow made a whistling sound, and the powerful airflow pressure in the air was released at that moment. The collision of the two forces was like two thunderbolts striking each other, making a loud bang. The spiritual chi airflow visible to the naked, I was like water ripples in the air, spreading outwards. The fog in front of the cave was swept away by this stream of air. The two people outside were faintly seen being sent flying by the powerful stream of air. They let out miserable cries and fell to the ground for a long time without any movement. Ghost, Dr. Fengjiu's good. No wonder I've always felt that someone's his eyes. You've been hiding in my cave for a long time. You're really bold. His sinister voice was filled with murderous intent. The pressure of an expert had already been released the moment they exchanged blows. Now, it filled the air, forming a powerful airflow that prevented people with lower strength from getting close at all. Chapter 40:17. Your vigilance is not bad. I've been hiding for so long, yet you were still able to discover me. You were able to determine my identity with a single sentence. You're definitely not simple. As Fengjiu spoke, her gloomy gaze fell upon the old man. When she thought of the sudden attack, a cold light flashed across her eyes. If she had not dodged quickly, she would have been lying on the ground and waiting to be slaughtered. This old man was the only person in the entire hidden sect that she was wary of. She never thought that the two of them would meet under such circumstances. The other party's cheek-concealing technique had been cultivated to the point of perfection. Even she had not been able to detect him hiding outside. He was truly not simple. The old man's eyes were gloomy as he stared coldly at Fengjiu, whose face was covered by a black cloth. That cave dwelling is only so big. It's impossible for anyone to hide inside. So, where did you come from? The corners of Fengjiu's lips curled up. With a move of her hand, a green sword appeared in her hand with a whoosh. The sharp sword, which was suffused with a green light, surged with spiritual energy, and the sword's sword chi whistled out. Her clear and cold voice sounded from her mouth. This you don't need to know. As soon as her voice fell, her body technique swept out like a ghost. Her extremely fast body technique made it impossible for anyone to see her moves clearly. All they could see was a green light sweeping out. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into several green lights that attacked the old man. Her aura was fierce and unstoppable. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The old man immediately used the walking stick in his hand to block the attacks. The spiritual energy in his palm surged, and several air blades shot towards Fengjiu like sharp swords. Every attack of his contained the might of a godly king. It could be said that once his powerful aura surged, it enveloped the entire mountain. As the two of them exchanged blows, the other people in the hidden sect noticed the commotion and rushed over almost immediately. However, before they could get close, they were stunned by the powerful aura that enveloped the main peak. This aura, we can't get close at all, a middle-aged man exclaimed. His face was filled with shock. Even if they wanted to see what was going on, they could not get close at all. This is the pressure of a God King expert, as well as an ancient pressure. An old man frowned and said. He looked at the scene on the main peak in the distance and sighed. Fengjiu is really here. The other person's expression changed slightly as he said, but she appeared before the sect leader even asked us to do what we were told to do. Wouldn't the two children who were already sent to the sect be of no use? A beautiful woman with a lock of hair said with a cold smile on her beautiful face. That's hard to say. The people next to her heard her words and couldn't help but look at her. They asked in confusion, "What's wrong? Do you have any good ideas?" The beautiful woman sneered as she watched the battle on the main peak. Because they were quite far away, they could only see the two streams of air fighting, but could not see the figures of the other party. Therefore, she said, "Let's wait for a while." Based on the sect leader's strength, she shouldn't have lost to Fengjiu. Moreover, didn't they say that her strength had fallen greatly? As he spoke, a loud rumbling sound spread out from the main peak, and then countless astral swords collided with the airflow, causing the surroundings of the main peak to be smashed into pieces, and trees fell one after another. Chapter 40:18. Two figures, one gray and one black, rose into the air from the airflow. Their attacks were so fast that even the disciples could not see their moves clearly. After the two exchanged more than a dozen moves, they were both knocked back by a heavy blow. The pressure and spirit force below also slowly dissipated. At this moment, the eyes of the entire sect fell on the black figure. There was curiosity and shock in their eyes. They did not expect that the one lurking in their sect was Ghost Dr. Fengjiu. They also did not expect that a woman could have the strength to fight with their sect master. However, her face was still covered with a black veil. No one could see her face, but the aura and pressure released from her body were extremely frightening. So, she is Ghost Dr. Fengjiu. It is said that she is the Lord of heaven and earth in other heaven realms. Her strength has already reached the Divine King realm, but because she was injured after the battle, her strength plummeted. However, seeing that she can fight with our sect master, maybe her strength has already recovered? Our sect is a hidden sect. Why would she lurk in our sect? A disciple asked the person beside him in confusion. An older practitioner lowered his voice and said, "Don't you know? There is a private rumor in the sect that our sect master has a sacrificial seed and a heart sutra. These two things were obtained from the myriad Buddhist sect. It is said that the strength of those who cultivate the Heart Sutra of the Buddhist sect will improve very quickly. And no matter what kind of cultivation, the speed of improvement will be several times faster than usual. But what does this have to do with Fengjiu? Another person asked in confusion. That's why you are not well informed. The speaker glanced at the person beside him and said, I heard that ghost Dr. Fengjiu has been to the myriad Buddhist sect and obtained the ancient golden lotus there. Because of this, the people of the myriad Buddhist sect asked Fengjiu to help them find the Sarira and the Heart Sutra. That's why she came here. At this point, the person who spoke lowered his voice and said, This is the news that my superiors heard. The disciples of the sect only know that someone snuck into the sect a few days ago, but they don't know who it is. Only the superiors know that the person who snuck in is probably the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. Fengjiu, give me back my crutch. Suddenly, a ruthless and angry roar came from the sky. Hearing the furious roar, everyone's heart trembled. They immediately raised their heads to look, only to discover that the dragon-head walking stick in their sect leader's hand was actually in the hands of a black-clothed person. Their sect leader's expression changed drastically, and he fiercely pounced forward in an attempt to snatch the walking stick back. Why did Fengjiu take our sect master's crutch? A disciple asked in confusion. A disciple who had been watching the fight said, I don't know, but it seems to be intentional. Just now, I saw that Fengjiu used his fatal killing move to force our sect master to use the crutch as a weapon. But who knew that Fengjiu did not avoid it? After taking the blow, he forcibly held our sect master's crutch in his hand. I don't know what he wants to do. Chapter 40:19. At this time, a young disciple at the side listened to their conversation for a while but didn't understand. Thus, he asked, Senior brother, who is this ghost Dr. Fengjiu? Where did she come from? How come I've never heard of her before? When a man at the side heard this, he glanced at him and said, I've never heard of this ghost Dr. Fengjiu before, but recently there have been rumors about her outside. Moreover, the upper echelons of the sect all know about her origins. It's said that she's the Lord of heaven and earth from another heaven realm and is very powerful. He paused, then continued, Do you still remember the strange phenomenon that appeared in the sky? It said that Fengjiu's child was born, and the sovereigns of various realms congratulated her across the sky. It was also from then on that some experts knew that ghost Dr. Fengjiu came to our side, and news about her quietly spread. Why are you still talking about this? Look, there's another fight over there. When a disciple at the side heard the two's words, he used his elbow to nudge the person beside him, indicating for them to look at the battle in the sky above the main peak. The two looked over and saw two figures fiercely fighting in the sky. Fengjiu took their sect master's dragon-head walking stick and put it into her space. Their sect master was so anxious that his expression changed, and his attacks became somewhat crazy and irritable. Because of the change in his attacks, he almost used all of his strength to try and kill the other party. The black-clothed Fengjiu was quickly dodging, but because of the difference in strength, she couldn't block his crazy attacks. Pooh! A heavy blow. A fist landed heavily on Fengjiu's body, causing her to spit out a mouthful of blood and her body to retreat a few meters. Hand over the walking stick, the old man said in a gloomy voice. His voice was filled with hostility and bloodthirsty killing intent, and his powerful pressure and spiritual aura gradually darkened, becoming somewhat uncontrollable. Seeing the change in the other party's aura, Fengjiu raised her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth and couldn't hide her shock. If she hadn't been fighting with this old man all this while, she wouldn't have dared to believe that the difference between a person before and after could be so great. Although the other party's previous attacks were fierce and ferocious, they were not crazy or desperate. But now, this old man was going all out to kill her. This kind of reckless fighting style made her a little overwhelmed. Moreover, her current strength was not enough to support her for a long battle. If he couldn't win after a short battle, then he could only retreat. However, now that she had taken the risk of being seriously injured to snatch the crutch and put it into her space, the old man was also going all out, not giving her the slightest chance to escape. It was really hard to get off the tiger. Give me back my crutches. Return it to me. The sinister voice contained a powerful pressure and attacked again. The airflow and pressure in the air surged along with his aura, covering the sky. The aura, surging from his body, gradually turned black. His eyes were blood-red as if he was possessed, and Fengjiu was a little frightened. As far as she was concerned, this old man had gone mad. Chapter 40:20. Furthermore, what shocked her even more was that the other party's power and aura had suddenly soared. The surging aura from his body inexplicably caused the Heart Sutra that she had suppressed to appear in her mind. Even the aura in her body began to rapidly revolve because of the Heart Sutra that had suddenly appeared in her mind. Damn it, she cursed under her breath. Her expression was as cold as frost. She did not have time to think too much and could only use all her strength to fight. However, the old man's attacks were as fierce as a storm. The disparity in power caused her to retreat step by step and was at a disadvantage. Her body was also riddled with wounds from the other party's fierce attacks. Fresh blood soaked through her black robes. The attacks were like icy blades as they slashed across her body. Seeing that the situation was becoming increasingly disadvantageous for her, her eyes flashed and a cold glint flashed across her eyes. With a flip of her hand, a pill appeared in her palm, and she quickly swallowed it. In the blink of an eye, the green lotus chi in her body circulated and healed her wounds. At the same time, she used her spiritual energy and aura to activate the pill that she had swallowed. In the next moment, the spiritual energy and aura on her body rose sharply. Under the impact of the powerful airflow, her black robes, along with the black cloth covering her face, were instantly torn apart and scattered in the air, revealing her peerless beauty and dazzling red robes. At that moment, it was as if the entire sky had become bright and dazzling. The people from the sect watched from afar and could not help but widen their eyes. Their eyes were filled with amazement and shock. Was this the true face of the legendary ghost, Dr. Fengjiu? It was so dazzling that no one could take their eyes off her. In the air, the red figure standing in the air exuded a powerful pressure and aura. It was the domineering aura of a ruler that towered over the heavens and earth. It was an intimidating aura that was naturally released from her body. Compared to her aura, her peerless beauty did not seem as outstanding. However, when they saw the figure standing in the air, the red robes fluttering in the airflow, and the scene of that peerless beauty like Lang Shuang, their hearts trembled. Their burning gazes only reflected the dazzling figure. The elders in the sect looked at the dazzling figure with indescribable complexity and disbelief in their hearts. It was rumored that the ghost Dr. Fengjiu was peerless and unparalleled in her generation, with experts from all over the world bowing down to her. They did not believe it at first. After all, in their eyes, she was just a beautiful woman. How could she compare to those true experts and men who lived in seclusion? However, after seeing him today, he knew that 100 rumors could not compare to seeing him in person. This ghost, Dr. Fengjiu, was truly worthy of being called a legend. Phew! Rumble! The powerful airflow formed a whirlpool, and a flame was released from Fengjiu's body. Following the swirling airflow, the flame turned into a terrifying attack towards their sovereign. For some reason, the aura that surged out from their sect master's body made them feel inexplicably demonic. The two powerful airflows rubbed against each other and collided fiercely in mid-air, creating a loud bang. Sparks flew along with the airflow and splashed down like dazzling fireworks in the sky that fell below the sect master. Chapter 40:21. When the people who had been watching the battle saw the sect burning, they quickly reacted and shouted, "Put out the fire! Put out the fire!" For a moment, the people in the sect were in a mess. The old man ignored the people below and stared at Fengjiu, repeating over and over again, "Give it back to me! Give it back to me!" Fengjiu turned around and retreated, sneering. Do you want your walking stick? Or do you want the relic hidden in the walking stick? However, this relic doesn't seem to be yours, right? As soon as she finished speaking, the old man's eyes turned even redder, as if they were filled with blood, as if he had fallen into a half-demon state. I'll kill you. His figure swept out like lightning, and an overwhelming aura of death crashed towards Fengjiu like a mountain. You can't kill me. As Fengjiu spoke, the corners of her lips curled up. As she dodged the old man's attack, she was about to retreat when she heard a voice containing spiritual aura penetrating the chaos in the sect and entering her ears. Fengjiu, do you want her child to die? The woman's voice was filled with viciousness and chilliness. As soon as she spoke, the cries of a baby reached her ears, causing her heart to tremble violently. For a moment, she was distracted, giving the crazed old man an opportunity to take advantage of. Bang! In that moment of distraction, she was sent flying from midair and crashed to the ground. The blood in her body surged violently, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Bang! As she spat out blood, her body crashed heavily into a courtyard in the sect. The force was so great that it almost flattened the entire courtyard. Boom! With a loud bang, smoke and dust filled the air. The courtyard collapsed, and rocks rolled down on her body, causing her to be covered in bruises. She lay on the pile of rocks and hissed. She felt as if all the bones in her body had been broken, and the slightest movement would cause intense pain all over her body. The most serious injury was the internal injury. She knew that this injury had damaged her internal organs, and she could not move. Hand over your life. The old man in the air gathered a powerful chi in his palm and blasted it towards the pile of rocks below, intending to kill Fengjiu. However, right at this moment, the cry of a phoenix resounded from the sky. The sharp and shrill cry of the phoenix contained a powerful ancient pressure that pierced into everyone's ears, causing everyone in the sect to cover their ears and howl in pain. They looked up into the sky, only to see a huge fire phoenix covered in flames descending from the sky. It flapped its wings, raised its head, and let out a cry. It swooped down from the sky in extremely fast speed, using its wings to block their sect master's attack towards the pile of rocks. Bang! Master, let's go! The fire phoenix shouted anxiously. Because the old man's attack was too fierce, and because of the close distance, it didn't have time to save its master. It could only block the attack with its wings, and at the same time, use its claws to grab Fengjiu, who was lying under the rubble, and rescue him. Fire Phoenix, how are the children? Fengjiu, whose internal organs had been injured by the attack, asked about the children's safety the moment he saw the Fire Phoenix. Don't worry, Master. The two children are safe and sound at home. With the protection of the Yama Lord, nothing will happen to them, the Fire Phoenix said as it endured the injury on its wings and quickly flew away with Fengjiu. Chapter 4022. The old man shouted and chased after her. However, just as he was about to catch up, the Fire Phoenix suddenly turned around and opened its beak, spitting out a stream of flames towards the old man. The old man was forced to retreat, but when he chased after her again, he saw that the woman and the bird had already disappeared into the distance. They were so far away that it was as if they would disappear from his sight in the next moment. You can't escape. The old man's aura surged, and he shot out like an arrow, chasing after her. Sect leader. The elders saw this and couldn't help but shout. However, the figure had already disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, one of the middle-aged men frowned and said, "That Fengjiu said that the Saraira was in the sect leader's walking stick. How did she know?" Another person said in surprise, "We don't even know where the sect leader hid the Saraira. But from the looks of it, the Saraira was definitely in the walking stick. Otherwise, the sect leader wouldn't have been so anxious." Furthermore, the old man paused, as if he wanted to say something. Furthermore what? Someone beside him asked. The old man looked at them and said, "Didn't you notice that the sect leader seemed a little strange? We don't practice the demonic arts, but the sect leader's spiritual aura seemed to be somewhat demonic. Also, his eyes were bloodshot. This isn't normal. Hearing this, the few of them fell into deep thought and didn't say anything. How could they not notice it? The sect leader's strange behavior wasn't just a moment ago. Recently, his temperament had been irritable and his aura was always gloomy. They knew this but didn't dare say it out loud. After a long silence, one of them said, "Do you think the sect leader can take the Sorira back from Fengjiu?" "It's hard to say," the middle-aged man said. "Fengjiu's strength really isn't at the level of a god king like the rumors say. It seems like her strength has fallen during the battle back then. If it weren't for her contracted beast saving her earlier, she probably would have died to the sect master's palm." Sigh. One of them sighed softly and shook his head. "What's wrong? Why are you sighing?" Several people asked, looking at the person who was sighing. That person looked at them and said, "Perhaps you don't know, but I've heard that this Fengjiu is the destined star of the Phoenix and is blessed with great fortune. Even if she dies 9 times out of 10, she'll still have a lifetime. Moreover, all those who go against her don't have a good ending. Today, she didn't die here, so I can't help but worry for the future of our sect." Hearing this, the group fell silent. They looked down at the fire burning in the sect. Seeing that the fire wasn't extinguished even with sand, their expressions became serious. This fire is constantly being extinguished. If this continues, I'm afraid the entire sect will be burned to a pile of ruins in the end. The middle-aged man glanced at it and said, "This fire is the natal heavenly fire. Other than Fengjiu himself, who can extinguish it, very few people can extinguish it. The only thing we can do now is to prevent the fire from spreading and completely isolate the burning area. Once everything is burned, the fire will naturally die out." Chapter 4023. When the others saw this, they immediately joined in to help extinguish the fire. On the other side, the fire phoenix was escaping with Fengjiu. It dived down and flew far away. However, one of its wings was injured. It could fly for a short period of time, but if it flew for a long time, its speed would naturally slow down. "Let me down," Fengjiu said as she caught her breath. The green lotus chi in her body was healing her internal injuries. However, the green lotus chi was slightly weak and the speed of recovery was not as fast. "Master, he's still chasing after us. If we stop now, he'll definitely catch up," the fire phoenix said anxiously. It did not stop and continued to fly. Fengjiu panted. She felt that she could not muster any strength. She was being held by the fire phoenix in midair. Her arms and legs hung limply, allowing the wind to blow past her cheeks and hair. "Your wings are injured. If we continue to fly, he'll catch up. Go to the dense forest below. There are trees there to cover you, so you'll be less of a target," she said with some effort, trying to see if she could hide in the space. However, with a thought, her spiritual energy fluctuated and cold sweat seeped out from her forehead. "Master, you can't enter the space?" the fire phoenix asked. "After that attack, it's already good enough that I'm still alive." Fengjiu smiled bitterly. "Now, don't talk about entering the space. I can't even circulate my spiritual energy." The fire phoenix heard this and asked anxiously, "Then what do we do? If we can't hide in the space, he'll find us sooner or later, even if we go down." "Don't worry, I'll be fine. As long as I rest for a while, the green lotus chi in my body will automatically heal my injuries. As long as I can recover, I'll be able to hide in the space with you." She was panting slightly. As she spoke, her injuries were aggravated and her face became paler. Hearing this, the fire phoenix brought her down to the dense forest. When they reached the bottom, the fire phoenix said, "Master, you rest here. I'll lure him away." "Wait." Fengjiu pulled its leg and said, "Don't go. Let Devouring Cloud and the others go. Its wings were injured. If it went, it might not be able to escape." The fire phoenix paused for a moment, glanced at her injured wing, and said, "It's fine, Master. I'll go. Ask Devourer Cloud and Senior White to guard you. That person will only chase after me if I lure him away. Only then will I be able to buy more time from Master. Your injury won't do. That person is coming. There's no time. As the fire phoenix spoke, it pushed away Fengjiu's hand that was grabbing onto it. Then, it skimmed through the dense forest for a while, moving further away from Fengjiu before flying into the air to attract the attention of the sect leader. Fire Phoenix, Fengjiu shouted. In her panic, she spat out a mouthful of blood. She leaned against the tree and panted, calling for Tun Yun, Lao Bai, and the others. Master, the three contracted beasts came out. Other than Tun Yun, the mother beast that had been cultivating all this time also came out. Lao Bai came to Fengjiu and paced around anxiously. Master, how are you? Are you all right? Master, the two Tun Yun beasts called out. Seeing how pale Fengjiu's face was, they were also very anxious. Chapter 4024. Hearing this, the cloud-swallowing beasts looked at each other and looked at her worriedly. But, Master, you... Lao Bai, just stay here and guard me. You guys go. Don't fight with that person directly. Help the Fire Phoenix escape and leave immediately. Don't linger. Fengjiu instructed them to quickly help the Fire Phoenix out of danger. Seeing this, the cloud-swallowing beasts nodded. We understand, Master. As they spoke, they looked at Lao Bai and instructed, protect Master well. I know, you guys go quickly. Lao Bai replied and stood guard beside Fengjiu. After they left, Fengjiu took a deep breath and said to Lao Bai, crouch down, I'll leave this place. If the old man found out that it was a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain, he would definitely come back to look for her. After all, that thing was with her. He wouldn't let her go and chase after the Fire Phoenix and the others. Right now, she could only leave this place quickly. Okay, Lao Bai replied and crouched down, turning his head halfway to look at her. Master, can you get up? Fengjiu gritted her teeth and used all her strength to lie down on Lao Bai's back. Because of this movement, she felt a mouthful of blood flowing from her throat into her mouth. She swallowed it down forcefully. Go that way. She raised her hand and pointed in a different direction. Yes. Seeing that she was pointing in a different direction, Lao Bai didn't question her and followed her instructions. On the other side, the Fire Phoenix led the old man in pursuit. When he saw the Fire Phoenix in front of them from afar, the old man behind them shouted angrily, Fengjiu, you can't escape. As he shouted, a stream of air shot out from his hand and rushed forward. The Fire Phoenix didn't even turn her head. However, because she was speeding up, the injury on her wings became more serious and her speed gradually decreased. When she felt a murderous aura coming from behind her, the Fire Phoenix immediately tilted her body and avoided the attack. Roar! At this moment, a roar of a beast came from the forest below. When the phoenix heard the roar, it immediately dived down and headed for the forest below. When the old man saw it, he quickly chased after it. He flipped his palm and attacked again. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! Over here! The cloud-swallowing beast shouted and ran through the dense forest. The Fire Phoenix flashed and turned into a small bird and landed on the back of the cloud-swallowing beast, allowing it to run away. The old man descended from midair and saw the Fire Phoenix instantly shrink and landed on the back of the cloud-swallowing beast, while Fengjiu was nowhere to be found. The old man descended from the sky and saw the Fire Phoenixes, while the Fire Phoenix had Fire Beast. Fengjiu was nowhere was Fengjiu. How dare you lie to me? He roared angrily and waved his sleeve. A powerful stream of air shot out towards the direction in which the cloud-swallowing beast had fled. The powerful stream of air surged like waves and destroyed the trees in the dense forest one by one. The old man's murderous aura churned as he stared darkly at the direction in which the cloud-swallowing beast and the Fire Phoenix had fled. However, he didn't chase after them. Instead, he turned around to look for them. Unexpectedly, just as he stopped in his tracks and turned around, a ferocious cloud-swallowing beast pounced out from the dense forest and bit towards the old man's shoulder with its bloodthirsty and vicious fangs. Roar! Scram! A vicious aura burst out from the old man's body as he sent a palm strike at the female beast. The female beast's reaction was extremely fast as well. It leaped over a dozen meters away and quickly retreated into the dense forest, not wanting to continue the fight. Chapter 4025. He rose into the air and stood in midair, scanning the dense forest. He released his powerful divine sense to search for Fengjiu's figure. However, standing in midair, he only saw the two cloud-swallowing divine beasts running in two different directions, but he did not see Fengjiu's figure. "You can't escape. You must still be here," the old man said in a gloomy voice. He wanted to follow the contracted beast to search for Fengjiu's figure, but the two contracted beasts also disappeared in front of his eyes. Even the aura of the sacred beast disappeared without a trace at that moment. On the other side, Fengjiu was being carried away by Lao Bai. Because she was on his back, Lao Bai did not dare to run too fast, in case she fell off the horse's back. However, he was worried that someone would chase after them, so he did not dare to slow down. It could be said that he wanted to be fast, but he could not be fast. However, he did not want to slow down, but he had to slow down. But even so, Feng Nine, who was on the horse's back, still lost her balance and rolled off White's back as he galloped. "Master!" Lao Bai was shocked, but he also saw her rolling down the slope along the weeds. He was so scared that his figure flashed, and in an instant, he turned into a white dragon and rushed down to catch her, so that she would not hit the tree stump at the bottom of the slope. "Master!" Lao Bai called out anxiously. He saw that her face was scratched by the weeds, and traces of blood seeped out. She had fainted. It was not like she had said before that she would recover after a while. "Master, master, wake up!" Lao Bai did not dare to push her, nor did he dare to call out too loudly. He looked at his unconscious master, and then looked around. Other than the weeds that were half the height of a person, there were only trees. She was lying in a pile of weeds, and her figure was almost submerged. Why is it bleeding here?" Only then did Lao Bai notice that there was a wound on her abdomen that was bleeding. Her red clothes were red to begin with, but the color was slightly darker after being stained with blood. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see it. However, at her waist, the red clothes on her abdomen were much darker in color. Lao Bai leaned forward and sniffed. When the smell of blood entered his nose, he immediately panicked. "It's really blood." Furthermore, he was injured to this extent. What should he do? What should we do? White said anxiously as he paced back and forth on the spot. Her master hadn't woken up yet, and she hadn't tried to treat such a wound before, so she was a little confused for a moment. "Right, medicine, medicine. We need to apply medicine to stop the bleeding," Lao Bai muttered. After he came to his senses, he opened the chinquan bag on her waist and took out some medicine to stop the bleeding. "What about the wound?" Lao Bai asked worriedly. Seeing that she was still unconscious and the wound was still bleeding, he leaned forward and used his teeth to untie her belt. At the same time, he muttered, "Master, Lao Bai didn't want to untie your clothes. You're injured, and we need to stop the bleeding. We can't settle accounts with you later." Fengjiu, who was unconscious, was naturally unable to respond to him. Therefore, she did not know that Lao Bai had gasped when he saw the wound on her abdomen. He took a few steps back and looked at the scene in shock. Chapter 4026. He saw that her white inner clothes had been dyed red. What shocked him the most was that he could faintly see a sharp stone blade piercing into her abdomen. Blood was seeping out from there. When did you get hurt? Why didn't you say anything?" "Master? Master?" Lao Bai called out in a trembling voice, but he did not dare to call out too loudly for fear of attracting that person. He could only open the hemostatic bottle with his trembling teeth and sprinkle the medicine inside on her wound. "This won't do. She'll die if this goes on. That stone has to be removed, but I can't." He anxiously circled Fengjiu, unable to think of a way. "What should I do? What should I do?" He walked around anxiously. There was no one here, and his master was unconscious. What should he do? If this dragged on, even if she was not killed, she would definitely bleed to death. However, he could not bring her away now. He was afraid that pulling her would worsen her wound. He exhaled 2 breaths of air from his nostrils in annoyance. Finally, he thought for a while and went to Fengjiu's side, shouting, "Little tiger, come out! Come out quickly!" In the space, the white tiger turned into a ray of light and flashed out. It rarely came out. When it saw Fengjiu unconscious and covered in blood, its eyes immediately shone with a fierce light. "How did Master get hurt like this? Don't talk about it. Let me tell you, Master's injury is very serious. There's a sharp stone blade piercing into her abdomen. You stay here and guard. I'll go and see if there's anyone nearby. It's more important to get that thing out of Master's wound first." As Lao Bai spoke, he looked around. In the next moment, a ray of light flashed and rolled around not far away. He brought back a pile of weeds to cover Fengjiu. He instructed the white tiger to guard its master and then quickly scurried away. The little white tiger from back then had now grown into a majestic figure. It shrunk its body and guarded Fengjiu's side. It stared at everything around it vigilantly, waiting for its companions to return. This place was at the bottom of a hill in the dense forest and was covered by weeds. It was a good place to hide, and, for the time being, this place was considered safe. Some distance away, a figure dressed in a manservant's clothes was squatting by the stream and washing her hands. After washing her hands, she took out a water bag from her space and filled it with water. She seemed to be in a good mood and sat down on a rock by the stream while humming a tune. She took out the herbs she picked from the space and cleaned them. Counting them one by one, she murmured, "This should be enough for a long time." After putting away the items, she rested her chin on one hand and stared at the stream. She thought to herself, "After walking for so many days, I wonder if he's searching the entire city again. Should he go back or not?" Thinking of this, she frowned and there was a struggle in her eyes. Just as she was about to stand up, suddenly, a gust of wind came from behind her. Then, something seemed to hit the back of her head. She only felt a pain in her head, and then her vision turned black and she fainted. Lao Bai glanced at the unconscious human with some disdain. He knew at a glance that it was a woman, but she was dressed in a manservant's clothes. Her face was so dark that he couldn't see her face clearly. He didn't know who she was, but he had no other choice. Chapter 4027. Lao Bai tossed the person onto the ground and said, "Master is injured, and there's something on the wound that needs to be removed. I'll capture this human and let her treat Master's wound." When I heard this, the white tiger still stared vigilantly at the unconscious human and asked, "What if this human takes advantage of this opportunity to harm Master?" Lao Bai glanced at the unconscious human and said, "With the 2 of us here to keep an eye on her, she wouldn't dare to harm Master, even if she had 10 times the courage." As it spoke, it transformed from the white dragon into its horse form and used its hoof to push the unconscious human. "Wake up! Hurry up and wake up!" When she felt someone pushing her, the woman on the ground gradually regained consciousness and opened her eyes. However, she didn't expect to see a strange horse face pressed against her face as soon as she opened her eyes. She was so frightened that she instinctively wanted to scream. "If you dare to make a sound, I'll bite you to death." The white tiger's threatening voice resounded from the side, and the woman was so frightened that she instinctively covered her mouth with both hands and swallowed her scream. When she turned around and saw the majestic white tiger lying behind her and staring at her ferociously, she only felt cold sweat seeping out of her forehead, and her face instantly turned pale. A tiger. A ferocious beast. No, this was a divine beast. All right, don't scare her to death. If she's scared to death, I'll have to find another one. Lao Bai said from the side and used its hoof to push her. "Hey, I need you to do something now. If you do it well, you can keep your little life. If you don't do it well, it'll tear you apart." A strange horse. A strange horse that could talk. The woman, who was Yi Fei Fei, stared at the 2 beasts in front of her with wide eyes. She didn't understand what was going on. She had just snuck out to gather herbs as usual, but who knew that she would suddenly be knocked unconscious and brought here? Just as she was in a daze, the white tiger looked at Lao Bai and said, "Why am I the one who will tear her apart?" Lao Bai grinned and revealed a mouthful of white teeth. Because I'm a vegetarian. The white tiger helplessly rolled its eyes and didn't argue with Lao Bai about this. Instead, it looked at the human and fiercely threatened. Did you hear that? It's a vegetarian, but I'm not. Lao Bai lifted the weeds at the side, revealing the fungio underneath. However, because her wounds were not treated properly and she was unconscious, her face was as pale as a sheet of paper. The two beasts' hearts tightened when they saw this. Cough. Senior White coughed lightly, looked at the woman, and said in a gentle tone, Miss, this is my mistress. She's injured, and there's something in her wound that hasn't been removed yet, and it's been bleeding. We're unable to clean her wound, so we'll have to trouble you. When Yi Fei saw the fungio lying there, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Oh my God, how'd she get hurt like this? She couldn't care about anything else. When she saw that the other party was a woman and was injured to such an extent, she had no reason to leave her in the lurch. She immediately stepped forward and said, She's lost so much blood. If this continues, she'll definitely die. She checked the fungio's wound, and her face was full of solemnity. The thing in this wound is very deep. If we pull out, I'm afraid that the blood won't be stopped even if we stop it. At that time, Lao Bai and the white tiger looked at each other. Then Lao Bai asked, Can't we put some medicine on the wound to stop the bleeding after pulling it out? Chapter 4028. Yi Fei looked at the unconscious person and felt that this person was really beautiful. Even though she was unconscious and her face was as pale as paper, she was still breathtakingly beautiful. She wanted to save her, but she was afraid that she was powerless. I have medicine. As long as you take out the thing in the wound and sprinkle this medicine on it, the blood will stop flowing. As White spoke, he opened his mouth and spat out a medicine bottle. Yi Fei was stunned. She picked it up and opened it. There was hesitation in her eyes. Will this medicine really work? What if it can't stop the bleeding? What will happen if you don't take the thing out and let the wound keep bleeding? White asked. Hearing this, Yi Fei gritted her teeth and said, Okay, then I'll help her clean the wound. If she delayed any longer, she would die even if she didn't die. She could only try everything she could. She took out a pair of scissors from the space and cut open the clothes around Fungio's wound. Seeing that the thing was stuck in the flesh and couldn't be pulled out directly by hand, she took out a pair of pliers. White and White Tiger watched nervously from the side. Although they let this person treat the wound, they couldn't hide their nervousness and worry, especially when they saw that the wound was pierced into the flesh after the clothes were cut open. Their hearts tightened, and they wished that they could bear the pain on behalf of their master. That bastard, sooner or later, will settle the score with him. White gnashed his teeth and said. At this time, Yi Fei used the pliers to clamp the thing pierced into Fungio's waist and abdomen. She swallowed her saliva and said to the two beasts beside her, I'll pull out. Pull out. As White spoke, his eyes were fixed on Fungio's wound. His body was also tense because of nervousness. Yi Fei took a deep breath and gritted her teeth. She exerted force in her hand and pulled back. With a swoosh, that thing was pulled out by her hand. Following that, a column of blood spurted out and splashed all over her body. Medicine! Medicine! Quickly sprinkle the medicine. White Tiger hurriedly shouted, itching to go forward and help. Yi Fei didn't dare to delay. He quickly poured all the medicine in the medicine bottle on the wound. He took a cloth from the side and covered her wound. He didn't dare to move. Yes. After a while, a light snort came from Fungio's mouth. When they heard her snort, the two beasts hurriedly rushed forward. Master, wake up, don't sleep anymore. Fungio felt that her head was heavy, and her vision was pitch black. She tried her best to open her eyes, but her eyelids were very heavy, and she had no strength in her body. She could only hear Lao Bai and the White Tiger shouting anxiously in her ears. The pain in her abdomen gradually brought her back to her senses. Even though she did not open her eyes, she knew that she was in a bad situation. Being injured by the old man was one thing. What she didn't expect the most was that when she was shot down from mid-air, when the gravel fell on her body, there was a sharp and messy stone that pierced into her body. However, in that situation, she had no time to deal with it. Yi Fei pressed on Fengjiu's wound. She felt that the blood seemed to have stopped. She couldn't help but look at her palm in surprise. She looked at the corner of the cloth that was stained red and the other corner that was not soaked in blood. Chapter 4029. Although she was not proficient in medicine, she had dabbled in it. However, she had never seen such a powerful hemostatic medicine. It was really amazing to be able to stop the bleeding from such a serious wound. Then hurry up and clean up the wound and bandage it. We can't stay here for long. We have to leave, Lao Bai said as he looked at his unconscious master and then at the woman. He felt that he could not let her go yet. She could only leave when they reached a safe place. Yi Fei gently released the hand that was pressing the cloth to stop the bleeding. She took the cloth away and saw that the wound was no longer bleeding. However, there were still some small stones around the wound that had not been cleaned up. Thus, she cleaned up the small stones again, applied some medicine, and bandaged the wound. When she raised her head, she saw that the person who had been unconscious had already opened her eyes. When she looked into the other party's eyes, she felt that the other party's eyes were really beautiful. "Master, master, you're awake," Lao Bai called out happily. "Master," White Tiger also called out and leaned forward to lick her face. "Thank you," Fengjiu said softly. His voice was still weak. "You're welcome. After all, it's a human life. I can't just leave you to die, right? Moreover, I didn't do anything. I just removed the things from your wound. If it wasn't for the powerful hemostatic medicine that the strange horse gave, you probably wouldn't have woken up now," Yi Fei said as she helped Fengjiu deal with the other external injuries on his body. The corners of Fengjiu's mouth twitched slightly and a faint smile appeared on his face. This woman's voice sounded familiar. It seemed to be the woman they met at the city gate when they entered the city that day. "Help me up and leave through the small path," Fengjiu said, indicating that they should leave now. "But you're so badly injured. If you move, I'm afraid that your wound will bleed again," Yi Fei said as she looked at him worriedly. "It's okay. My recovery ability is better," Fengjiu said slowly. After catching his breath, he looked at Yi Fei and said, "I'll have to trouble you, miss." Seeing this, Yi Fei went forward to help him up and asked, "What are you going to do now? You can't ride a horse like this." Then, without waiting for her reply, he added, Forget it. I'll use the aircraft to take you away." "No, if we fly in the air, we'll be discovered. If that happens, we won't be able to survive." Fengjiu refused and gestured for Lao Bai to lie down. After Lao Bai laid down, he turned around and said to Yi Fei, "Young lady, bring my master and sit on my back. Hold on to her and don't let her fall. I'll get you out of here." "Can you carry the two of us?" Yi Fei said with some hesitation. "Sure, no problem," Lao Bai said as he gestured for them to hurry up. Seeing this, Yi Fei had no choice but to help Fengjiu sit on the horse's back and half supported her so that she could lean on his body to avoid pulling on her wound. "Sit tight, we're leaving." As Senior White spoke, he quickly led them away, and the White Tiger glanced at the surroundings before quickly following them. After returning to the city, Hua Feng, Tun Yun, and the others looked around the courtyard they lived in. They asked anxiously, "Is Master back?" Chapter 4030. Hearing Lung Hua's words, the fire phoenix straightened up. The two cloud-swallowing beasts immediately said, "We'll go back to find our master." Seeing this, Lung Hua frowned and looked at them, saying, "Since you're back, don't go out. Tell the Yama Lord what happened and see what the Yama Lord will do." Hearing this, the three contracted beasts looked at each other and then went to the main courtyard. Seeing this, Lung Hua couldn't help but sigh. He looked at the sky in the courtyard and murmured worriedly, "Master, where are you now? How are you? When will you be back?" When the three contracted beasts came to the main courtyard and explained the situation to Xianyuan Mose, they saw that he didn't speak, so they just stood there quietly and didn't dare to move. After a long while, they heard his voice. So, you didn't go back to look for her after you lured that person away? So you don't even know where she is? You don't know if she's dead or alive, and when will she be back? Xin Yuan Mo's voice was low and steady, with a natural but powerful aura. But this calmness made their hearts tense up. They knew that the Yama Lord was angry. He was angry after hearing that their master was injured. But they didn't expect that after they lured that person away, it would take them a few days to come back here, but their master in white hadn't arrived yet. They didn't know how she was in the past few days. Xin Yuan Mo's paused for a while and said, "Is everyone here?" This question was obviously not directed at the three cloud-swallowing beasts. It was directed at Hui Lang, who was waiting at the side. Hearing this, Hui Lang stepped forward and said, "Master, Du Fan has been taking care of them. Listen to my orders. Pass down the order. Have Qi Kong and the others bring people to the secluded sect. This sovereign wants that sect to disappear from this world. Kill them on the spot. Don't leave a single one alive." His voice was cold and piercing. As soon as he spoke, Hui Lang immediately responded and left quickly. How's the arrangement I asked you to make?" Xin Yuan Mo's asked. He played with the teacup in one hand, but didn't drink half a sip of water. "The arrangements have been made." He came out from the shadows and said, "Bring Fire Phoenix and the others over." With a wave of his hand, he stood up. With one hand behind his back, he slowly clenched it into a fist. Cracking sounds could be heard as his knuckles tightened. At the same time, Feng Jiao, Lao Bai, the white tiger, and the woman called Yi Feifei were resting under a tree on a remote path far away from here. From that day until now, they had been walking on this path for several days. In order to avoid being killed by that person, Feng Jiao chose to take a detour around the path. Aside from the fact that the path was not flat, it was also quite far. They had to take a detour of more than half the distance to return to the city. This was also the reason why they were resting here. "Let me help you change your bandages," Yi Feifei said as she took out a strip of cloth from the space and looked at Feng Jiao. After Feng Jiao responded, she let her treat the wound. Compared with the previous 2 or 3 days, her complexion had eased a lot, and the spiritual power in her body had gradually recovered. Her internal injuries had also recovered a lot, but it was still impossible for her to be the same as before. Chapter 40-31. She watched as Yi Feifei helped her treat her wounds. Seeing her serious expression, the corners of her lips curled up slightly, revealing a smile. After Yi Feifei helped her change the dressing on her wounds, she raised her head to see her smiling. She couldn't help but ask in surprise, "What are you smiling about?" Although the two of them had walked together for a few days, neither of them had asked about the other's matters. She didn't ask why she was injured to this extent, who was chasing after her. She also didn't ask who she was. Why did she appear here? However, these 2 days, she had endured her injuries. She didn't say a word, even though she was out in the open. She couldn't help but admire her. "You had the chance to leave these 2 days. Why didn't you leave?" Feng Jiao asked as she leaned against the tree and looked at her. "Where can I go in this wilderness? Moreover, you won't do anything to me," Yi Feifei said as she walked to the side and sat down. She looked at her with her clear eyes and said, "However, your body's recovery ability is really good. You didn't take care of your injuries, and you actually recovered so quickly." Feng Jiao smiled faintly. That was natural. Although the green lotus qi in her body was small, it was constantly healing her body. Not only the wounds on her waist and abdomen, even the injuries on her body were gradually recovering. "Naturally, it's because my pills are not ordinary." She smiled and took out a few spirit fruits from her space and handed them to her. "Fill your stomach." Seeing her take out this kind of spirit fruit again, Yi Feifei's eyes couldn't help but move slightly as she said, "This kind of spirit fruit is very precious. Why do you always take it out for me to eat? It's just a few spirit fruits. What's so precious about it?" She smiled and shook her head, saying, "This kind of fruit, other than having a good taste, can also replenish spiritual energy and recover physical strength." We're currently on the run and can't start a fire in case we attract pursuers. Just take this fruit to fill your stomach." Hearing this, Yi Fei Fei didn't say anything else. She only took the spirit fruit and thanked her before eating it in small bites. Her family background was not bad, but it was impossible for her to eat this kind of spirit fruit for fun. Firstly, the spirit fruit was expensive, and secondly, even if she wanted to buy it, it might not be sold in the city. She leaned against the wall and rested. Because she was in good spirits, Feng Jiu asked with a smile, "Why did a girl like you run to such a faraway place? That place is a few days away from the nearest town, and you're still alone. Aren't you afraid that your family will be worried? Didn't you also run to such a faraway place? You even got injured all over." Yi Fei Fei glanced at her and said, "Although I'm alone, at least I won't be pursued." "We're different." Feng Jiu chuckled. "How is it different?" Yi Fei Fei looked at the two contract beasts on the side and curled his lips. "You have two more contract beasts than me. However, these two contract beasts are useless to you. In a critical moment, you still need me to treat your wounds. You're being disliked." Feng Jiu glanced at Lao Bai and White Tiger and chuckled. Senior White snorted twice. After glancing at Yi Fei Fei, he grinned, revealing a row of white teeth, and said, "Master, this little girl is useless. Why don't we let little Tiger eat her?" Chapter 4032. Lao Bai snorted softly and ignored her. White Tiger, who was lying on the side, opened its mouth and stretched. Then it stood up and looked at Feng Jiu. "Master, let's continue our journey. It's safe to return home." In its opinion, even if its master's body had recovered a little, it was still not out of danger. If that person caught up with them, it would be troublesome. However, it would be different if they returned home. With the Yama Lord around, even if something happened, the Yama Lord would protect its master. Moreover, the Yama Lord was stronger than its master. Even if the old man chased him home, he would not be a match for the Yama Lord. "Okay, let's go. If we can't return, our family will be worried." As soon as Feng Jiu finished speaking, Yi Fei Fei, who was sitting at the side, saw that she was about to stand up and quickly went forward to help her. Seeing this, Feng Jiu smiled and thanked her. He helped her stand up and sat on Lao Bai's back. Yi Fei Fei flew on her own aircraft and followed them. Feng Jiu sat on Lao Bai's back and touched the communication jade tablet in his sleeve. After recovering for 2 days, she only sent a message back to Xianyuan Mose that she was fine. She did not want him to worry about other things, so she did not say much. As for where she was, they would not be able to find her even if she told them. She only told them that she would return home safely. "Little Tiger, you go back to the space first. We'll speed up and go back," Feng Jiu said. He waved his sleeve and put White Tiger into the space. Although Xianyuan Mose didn't say anything at the time and only told her to be careful and pay attention to her safety, she knew that he would definitely do something. So, she thought that it would be better to hurry home and take a look to be at ease. "Okay, master, sit tight," Lao Bai said. With a flash of light, he turned from horse into a white dragon and soared into the sky. Yi Fei Fei, who was following them on her aircraft, could not help but be startled when she saw the horse turn into a dragon. She sped up and said, "Why can it change? Isn't it from Malaysia?" When Lao Bai heard this, he raised his head proudly and wagged his tail slightly. Feng Jiu smiled and said, "Old White is a mutated draconic horse. He can change between a dragon and a horse. I didn't expect it to be so powerful." Yi Fei Fei's eyes lit up as he looked curiously at Lao Bai in his dragon form. His eyes were filled with envy. She didn't have a contract beast, because most people could only have one contract beast, so they wanted to find a stronger one. But it wasn't easy to find a strong contract beast. Feng Jiu, who was in a hurry to return to the city, did not know what was happening at the secluded sect under Xianyuan Mose's arrangement. She also did not know that the secluded sect, which had been hiding from the world for many years, was in danger of being exterminated a few days after she left, 2 days later, when Feng Jiu, Yi Fei Fei, and Lao Bai were resting at the bottom of a slope. Lao Bai, who was originally lying down, quickly stood up and said to Fengjiu, "Master, someone is coming. I'll go and see who it is." Then, without waiting for Fengjiu to speak, he walked down the slope in the direction of the sound. He stuck his head out from the bottom of the slope and looked up the path. When he saw it, he could not help but be startled. Then, his eyes shone with surprise. Chapter 4033. When Du Fan and Lung Shuang heard the sound and looked in that direction, they saw Lao Bai rushing out. When they saw him, they looked at each other and smiled. Seeing Lao Bai meant that their master was here. Fortunately, they found him. "Lao Bai, where's our master? How is she? Is she okay?" Du Fan asked, and quickly walked to his side with Lung Shuang. "Our master is injured. She's over there. It's good that you're here. I can rest assured now," Lao Bai said happily. When he saw their expressions change, he hurriedly said, "Don't worry. Our master's injury is much better now. Come with me. Our master is over there." As he spoke, Lao Bai led them to where Fengjiu was. Fengjiu, who was sitting and resting, faintly heard their conversation. She did not move. She just sat and rested, waiting for them to come over. When Yi Fei saw this, she said, "Your people are here. Then I'll go first." Just as she was about to leave, Fengjiu grabbed her hand. "What's the hurry? Didn't you say you were going back to the city?" "We're going back to the city too." Fengjiu smiled and looked up. She saw Du Fan and Lung Shuang following Lao Bai and walking quickly towards them. "Let me introduce you to these two people." When she saw Du Fan, the smile on Fengjiu's face deepened. Although she did not lift the curtain to see when they entered the city, she more or less knew what happened on that day. When she saw Du Fan and Lung Shuang, she could not help but be curious. What happened next? When Yi Fei saw Du Fan and Lung Shuang approaching, she had half covered her face. She did not expect to meet these two people, and she did not expect that the woman who had taken care of her for several days would be their master. Thinking of the day when she threw herself on the man and said those words when she entered the city, her face couldn't help but feel a little hot. For the past few days, she had not met anyone because she had been walking on the mountain path. She had also washed away the red birthmark on her face with medicine, but she did not think that the other party would not recognize her. It's over. What should I do?" She lowered her head to avoid him, feeling extremely anxious. "What's over?" Fengjiu asked with a smile. "Master." Du Fan and Lung Shuang walked forward and saw a woman curled up beside Fengjiu with her head half buried, and their master holding her hand. Seeing this, Du Fan frowned and immediately went forward to lift the woman up. "Where did you come from?" He lifted her up, but was interrupted by Fengjiu before he could finish his sentence. "Du Fan, don't hurt her." "Hiss! Ouch, ouch, ouch!" Yi Fei gasped and did not bother to cover her face as she cried out in pain. Du Fan looked, and his brows were still furrowed. He stared at Yi Fei's face and said, "Why do I feel that this person is somewhat familiar?" Fengjiu smiled and said, "I was injured and she was the one who helped me treat my wounds. She was also the one who took care of me on the way here." Lung Shuang walked forward to Fengjiu's side. Seeing that she seemed to be in good spirits, but her face was still a little pale, he could not help but ask worriedly, "Master, are you seriously injured? Where's the wound? Is it better?" "The wound on my waist was quite serious, but it's much better now. The internal injuries are also gradually recovering. There's no need to worry," Fengjiu said and then asked, "Is everything okay at home?" Chapter 4034. They were following the Yama Lord's orders and did not expect to meet their master here. Du Fan let go of Yi Fei. Seeing that she wanted to escape, he immediately reached out and pulled her back. "Why are you running away?" "Who's running away? I'm leaving. There's nothing for me to do here. Your master is also there. I didn't do anything bad to her," Yi Fei said, turning his face away so that they wouldn't see him. The more she acted like this, the more Du Fan felt that something was amiss. He felt that he had seen her before, but he could not remember where. He asked, "Where did we meet before?" No, how could that be?" Yi Fei felt as though someone had stepped on her tail. Her entire body tensed up as she denied it. Long Shuang glanced at her and said, "She's the girl we met when we entered the city." She paused and looked at Du Fan with a smile in her eyes. "She was the girl who threw herself at you and said she wanted to give her body to you." Hearing this, Du Fan stared at her face suspiciously. Now that Long Shuang mentioned it, his mind was reminded of the obvious red birthmark on one side of her face, as well as the other side of her face that was exceptionally delicate. Instantly, he loosened his grip and hurriedly let go of her. He even involuntarily took a step back. "It's you. It's not me." As soon as Du Fan's voice fell, Yi Feifei quickly denied it. However, after her voice fell, the air fell silent. Then, Du Fan opened the fan in his hand with a swish and looked at her with a smile on his face. "So it really is you. No wonder I couldn't recognize you. The red birthmark on your face is gone today. You look like a different person. If Long Shuang did not mention it, I wouldn't have remembered you." He paused, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. He stared at her coldly. "But how did you coincidentally save my master? Do you have any ulterior motives?" She was the daughter of an aristocratic family in the city. She was a woman that everyone hated. How did she meet his master? If it wasn't a scheme, then what was it? Yi Feifei, who originally wanted to leave, immediately widened his eyes. "What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Why don't you ask your master and old white yourself, and see who it was that forced me to come here? You make it sound like I'm sticking to you on purpose. Do you really think I'm some kind of elegant and handsome man?" She glanced at Du Fan in disgust and said, "You're always fanning yourself with that stupid fan. It's not June. Even if you're not cold, I feel cold for you." Pucci. Hearing this, Fengjiu couldn't help but laugh. Her beautiful face was overflowing with a smile. She looked at the stunned Du Fan with a teasing smile in her clear eyes. She couldn't stop smiling. This was the first time Du Fan had met someone who dared to talk to him like that. Interesting. Very interesting. Long Shuang looked at them and couldn't help but smile when she heard this. She looked back and forth between the two of them, but she didn't say anything. Chapter 40-35. Yu. Du Fan took a deep breath and pointed at her with his fan. "Demeanor. This is called demeanor. Do you understand? A good man doesn't fight with a woman. I won't bicker with you." Yi Feifei snorted and ignored him. She crossed her arms over her chest and leaned to one side. "Master, the Yama Lord has made a decision these days." Du Fan walked up to Fengjiu and squatted down, telling her about Xin Yuan Moza's recent arrangements and movements. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed. "So he used my name to gather people to destroy that hidden sect." "That's right. Calculating the time, it should have been cleaned up by now. Except for by Qin Sheng, Qin Xen, Leng Hua, and Ing Yi who are at home. The others have followed Qi Kong to that hidden sect. As long as they don't encounter the sect leader, it should be more than enough to deal with the people in that sect. That sect leader is definitely not in the sect. I think he might have gone back to his home." Fengjiu said slowly, a dark light flashing through her clear eyes. "The thing he is looking for is with me. He definitely won't leave it in the sect for others to find. It is very likely that he went back to his home from the other side when he couldn't find me. Therefore, I'm a little worried about the safety of my home, especially with the two children there." Du Fan knew that she was worried about the two children at home, so he said, "Master, don't worry. With the Yama Lord there, the two children will be fine." "I hope so." Fengjiu sighed softly, stood up, and said, "Since you are here, let's go back together. No matter what, I still feel that I have to see it with my own eyes to be at ease." "Okay, then I will take Master with me," Du Fan said, looking at Long Shuang. "I will take her." Long Shuang said, looking at Yi Feifei, "If you want to go back, just go back. Why bring me along?" Yi Feifei said. He didn't want to go with them. Fengjiu smiled, looked at her, and said, "You saved me. I still owe you a life. Since you're alone outside, why don't you come back with us? If there's anything you need our help with, we're all here to help." Hearing this, Yi Feifei glanced at Fengjiu and muttered, "You can't even protect yourself. What can you do for me?" Fengjiu smiled and said slowly, "That depends on what you need me to do for you. She glanced at Senior White, and then with a command of her divine sense, she flicked her sleeve and put Senior White into her space. Dufan did not fly on his sword. Instead, he tossed the fan in his hand into the air. The fan instantly expanded and landed in front of them like a spaceship. "Master, sit down and rest," Dufan said, jumped onto the fan with her, and helped her sit down. Yi Fei looked at the fan with some surprise. She didn't expect the fan to be a magic weapon, and it didn't look like an ordinary magic weapon. "Miss Yi, let's go," Lung Shuang said, summoned his flying sword, and brought her along. He followed Fengjiu and Du Fan back. Their figures flitted through the air at an extremely fast speed, as if they were passing through the wind. After a while, they disappeared into the clouds, just as Fengjiu expected. When the suzerain of the hidden sect couldn't find Fengjiu, he changed his target. He set his sights on Xianyuan Mose and their child who lived in the city. Chapter 4036. Perhaps it was due to his confidence in his own abilities, but he did not think that he would be a match for the Yama Lord, Xianyuan Mose. After entering the city, he looked no different from an ordinary old man in his gray robes. His hair was white, and he was dressed in simple gray robes. His appearance was inconspicuous, and the pressure and aura he exuded made him look ordinary and inconspicuous. His gaze swept around the surroundings, then he strode forward. According to the news from his sect, the Fengjiu's man and child were staying in this city. As long as he could find the location of her child, he did not believe that she would not hand over the item. When he thought of the item that was taken away, the anger in his heart surged, but he suppressed it. In a house in the city, Xianyuan Mose was drinking tea and playing chess with a monk in the courtyard. After the monk placed a chess piece, he picked up a black chess piece with 2 fingers and played with it for a while. Then, he slowly placed the black chess piece down. The monk glanced at it, then picked up a white chess piece and placed it down. Just as his white chess piece was placed down, the black chess piece followed suit and surrounded the white chess piece, putting him into a dead end. "Almsgiver, your chess style today is very aggressive," the monk said slowly. "Master, are you admitting defeat?" Xianyuan Mose looked at him and asked. He was still playing with the black chess piece in his hand. "This poor monk's chess skills are no match for Almsgiver. We have been playing for an entire morning, but I have not won a single game against Almsgiver. I am ashamed," he said slowly with his palms together. Xianyuan Mose's lips curled up slightly, revealing a faint smile. "It is normal for the master to not win against me." He looked outside the courtyard, as if waiting for something. This poor monk sees that Almsgiver seems to be waiting for someone. The monk looked at him calmly. Xianyuan Mose's deep black eyes flashed with a dark light. He said slowly in a low voice, "I am waiting for someone who is seeking death." As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at the monk and revealed a mysterious smile. "Master, you can stay and take a look. Perhaps it is someone you know." The monk looked at him and didn't say anything. He only lowered his gaze slightly. Ing Yi, who came out of nowhere, stepped forward and changed a cup of hot tea for the two of them. Then, he quietly retreated to a dark corner and quietly guarded them. Suddenly, Xianyuan Mose's eyes flashed as he played with the chess piece. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he stood up in an instant. With a wave of his black robe, he disappeared from the courtyard in the blink of an eye. When a monk saw this, he looked up and hesitated for a moment. Then he stood up and walked out. At the same time, at the back door, the sect leader of the hidden sect was quietly entering the back door. However, as soon as he stepped into the back door, he felt a wave of energy flow. He immediately withdrew his foot, but it was too late. Swish! A sharp air current streaked across the air and attacked the old man. It was so fast, and its aura was so sharp that it made one's heart skip a beat. When the old man sensed the incoming airflow, he instinctively raised his sleeves, and a powerful force shot out from his sleeves, dispersing the airflow in front of him. Swish! Chapter 4037. The old man narrowed his eyes and looked back. He saw a handsome man in a black robe standing not far away. The other party had one hand behind his back and the other in front of his abdomen. His figure was as straight as a pine tree. His restrained aura revealed a powerful aura. Just by standing there, he gave people an indescribable sense of shock. "You are the Yama Lord Xianyuan Mos." The old voice was filled with hostility. It was not a question, but an affirmation. At first glance, the old man's eyes were filled with dread. This person's aura was very strong. In an instant, the information about the Yama Lord Xianyuan Mos flashed through his mind. "I've been waiting for you here for a long time." As Xianyuan Mos spoke, his hand moved, and the Xianyuan sword appeared in his hand. He turned his palm and pointed the tip of the sword diagonally to the ground. The spiritual aura in his palm surged, causing the Xianyuan sword to also surge with spiritual aura, bursting out a powerful sword aura. As soon as his voice fell, his black figure rushed out like lightning. He waved the Xianyuan sword in his hand and attacked the old man at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. The old man was shocked. He immediately leaped into the air and jumped more than 10 meters away from the ground. He stood in the air and avoided the attack. Whoosh! Bang! The sharp sword aura slashed the ground, cutting a mark on the ground. With a bang, dust flew up, and the spiritual aura surged. At that moment, all the forces in the city were alarmed. What's going on? Where did they start fighting again? In a family, a middle-aged man who heard the commotion hurriedly jumped into the air and jumped onto the roof of his house to look in the direction of the sound. When he reached the roof, it turned out that he was not the only one. The people around who heard the sound had also jumped onto the roof to check the news. From afar, they could only see two figures fighting in midair. In the air where the two of them were fighting, a powerful pressure formed a visible airflow that surrounded them, as if the two of them were trapped inside. "It's there. Is it the person called Yama Lord?" "It seems so. My men found out that he lives in that area. The incident a few days ago caused quite a stir. I didn't expect him to still be there." On the rooftop, the patriarchs of several neighboring families were chatting as they stared in the direction of the battle. "I just received news that the hidden sect has been completely wiped out. Didn't you say that Fengjiu came to our place? It is said that the woman is a legendary figure. She is the lord of heaven and earth as a woman. Moreover, she is proficient in medicine and poison. She has the ability to bring the dead back to life. Moreover, her strength is also very outstanding. However, that is what the rumors say. I have never seen it with my own eyes. I don't know if it is exaggerated." The few of them chatted while watching from afar. They saw that the two seemed to be equally matched, but their strength was far above theirs. This made them break out in cold sweat. Among the people in this area, the true experts were all hidden. The sudden appearance of one was enough to shock them. However, according to their observations during this period of time, it was obvious that there was more than one hidden expert in this area. Chapter 4038. Xianyuan Mos stared at the old man coldly. The Xianyuan sword in his hand fell on the old man's shoulder and was caught by his palms together. However, the blade was still stuck on his shoulder. As it could not be cut down, he pulled the sword out of his hand. The moment he pulled the Xianyuan sword back, the old man cried out in pain. Blood immediately splashed out from the hand, holding the Xianyuan sword and the shoulder that was cut by the blade. He did not give the old man a chance to breathe. The moment he pulled the Xianyuan sword back, the blade in his hand attacked again, quickly and fiercely toward the old man's fatal spot. Seeing this, the old man gritted his teeth. His body suddenly fell from mid-air into the courtyard below. He pushed with both hands, and a powerful force hit the things in the courtyard with a whoosh. The things in the courtyard were scattered in all directions, making a rumbling sound that echoed throughout the house. He listened carefully, hoping to hear the cries of the children. However, no matter how much noise he made, he couldn't hear the cries of the children in the house. Therefore, he couldn't find out which courtyard the two children were hidden in. "You want to find my children?" Xianyuan Mo sneered. He raised the Xianyuan sword in his hand and pointed the tip of the sword at the old man. Perhaps you still don't know? Your sect has been reduced to ruins. As for my children, you are not qualified to see them." As soon as his voice fell, Xianyuan Mo's figure flashed. The blade instantly split into three and attacked the old man below. In a corner of the house, the monk looked at the two people fighting. His gaze swept past Xianyuan Mo's and landed on the old man. He said, "This person is the master of the hidden sect, right?" He stood not far behind and watched. When he heard the monk's words, he did not answer. He just watched the old man's expression gradually change. The aura on his body gradually changed, and his eyes gradually turned blood red. Because of the change in his aura, the momentum of his whole person also changed in an instant. The old man, who had originally avoided a head-on confrontation with his master, actually turned around at this moment. A voice full of hostility came out of his mouth. "I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you all." A ruthless aura burst forth from his body, and a powerful airflow violently attacked Xianyuan Mo's. It was as if he didn't want to live anymore, and was actually fighting like he was going to die in order to find a way out. As soon as Feng Jiu and Du Fan entered the city, they sensed that something was off in the city. When two God Kings clashed, all the cultivators in the city would be able to sense it if the pressure of their strength permeated the surroundings. Therefore, as soon as they entered the city, they felt a powerful pressure enveloping the city. As expected, "They have come," Feng Jiu said, a cold light flashing through her clear eyes. She said to Du Fan, "Let's go." Du Fan took her in the direction of the house, but he did not take her directly back to the house. He sent her to a place near the residence and said, "Mistress, you're still injured and your strength hasn't recovered yet. It's best if you don't get too close. Just stay here and watch. With the Yama Lord at home, nothing will happen." Lung Shuang also landed on the side with Yi Feifei. However, they could not see the situation in the courtyard from here. Chapter 4039. However, just as Feng Jiu was worried about the two children, Xianyuan Mo's attack changed. Qi gushed out from his body. Compared to the previous attack, this attack was even more deadly. He threw the Xianyuan sword in his hand and set up a sword array in the air to prevent the old man from escaping. His figure rushed forward in an instant and struck the old man with a thunderous palm. His speed was as fast as the speed of light. Feng Jiu watched with slight surprise. His palm was so powerful that even she could feel it from here. The combination of speed and pressure was so fast that it was impossible to dodge. Sure enough, with a heavy bang, the old man flew out and smashed heavily into the wall of the courtyard. The entire wall collapsed with a bang. The old man stood up from the rubble. Before he could see clearly what was in front of him, he saw Xianyuan Mo's rush forward. With extremely fast speed and strange skills, he twisted the old man's hands behind his back. Ah! The moment the bones cracked, a shrill scream came from the old man's mouth. The back of his knee was kicked by Xianyuan Mo's. That kick contained hidden power. With a crack, the old man's knee bone broke, causing him to kneel down involuntarily. However, he had no choice but to straighten his body because his hands were twisted behind his back. He struggled, but in the next moment, he felt a palm strike his head. In an instant, his eyes were filled with horror. With a sharp voice, he exclaimed, "No!" Bang! The moment his voice came out, all the spiritual power in his body rushed to the top of his head and spread out from there. His cultivation was crippled, and his hands were twisted. The sect master of a sect had undergone an earth-shattering change in an instant. His spiritual power leaked out. As his cultivation dissipated, his body quickly withered and wrinkled. In the blink of an eye, he was lying on the ground like a bag of bones. Only a weak breath was left. Seeing this scene, Feng Jiu felt relieved. Her eyes flashed, and a proud smile appeared on her face. Her man wasn't just a little powerful. Xianyuan Mo's looked at the old man who was lying on the ground. He stood with his hands behind his back, and the sword array around him had not been released. He stared at the old man who was panting on the ground and spoke in a low and cold voice. "You dare to come here after injuring this monarch's woman? You got guts." As soon as he said that, A sword chi from the sword formation above him shot down with a swoosh, piercing into the old man's skinny thigh. Hiss! The old man let out a blood-curdling scream as blood flowed out of his mouth. Because his arms were broken, he could only lie on the ground powerlessly. His face was pressed against the ground as blood dripped down from the corner of his mouth. Since you've delivered yourself to my doorstep to seek death, I'll naturally grant your wish. As soon as Xianyuan Mose finished speaking, the second sword chief struck down from above, aiming for the old man's shoulder. The old man let out a muffled groan. His already weakened chi seemed to have been cut off after the second sword chi pierced through him. He lay on the ground, motionless. Chapter 40. Amitabha. The Buddhist monk walked out and murmured softly when he saw the scene. He then sighed. The sect master of the hidden sect had been in seclusion for many years and had never left the mountain gates. He never thought that he would die here on this trip. He sighed softly as he looked at the dead person on the ground. A cultivator at the peak of the Divine King level had been killed just like that. Life and death. It did not matter if it had happened in an instant. Xianyuan Mose looked at him and asked in a low and cold voice, "Great Master, do you want to bring this body back to report on your mission?" When Fengjiu had sent a message back, he knew that she must have been severely injured. Otherwise, her return date would not have been delayed. Based on her cultivation level, she would either not be injured or she was severely injured. Even if she did not say it, he could guess it. Hence, when he found out that she was severely injured, a murderous intent rose in his heart. Not only did he want to kill the sect master of the hidden sect, he wanted to destroy the entire hidden sect as well. Anyone who dared to touch his people, no matter who it was, he would kill them. "Mose, I'm back." Fengjiu's gentle voice sounded with a hint of relaxation and laughter. When Xianyuan Mose heard her voice, he immediately turned towards the direction of the voice. When the figure entered his sight, his murderous aura and cold aura disappeared without a trace. The black figure raised his chi and swept across the air. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived by Fengjiu's side. "How are you? Are the wounds on your body better?" Xianyuan Mose asked. He held her shoulders with both hands and carefully looked her up and down. Fengjiu pursed her lips and smiled. She reached out and wrapped her arms around his waist. She buried herself in his arms and said softly, "I'm fine. It's just that my injuries still hurt a little." Her gentle voice carried a hint of exhaustion. Xianyuan Mose's heart clenched when he heard this. He hurriedly asked, "Where does it hurt? Have you applied medicine?" I've applied medicine," she replied. "I'll take you back." As he spoke, he turned his hand and carried her in his arms. He tiptoed and headed towards the house. Seeing Fengjiu being taken away by Xianyuan Mose, Yi Feifei elbowed Du Fan and said, "Hey, is that man her husband?" Du Fan glanced at her, and with a move of his hand, he grabbed her by the collar and dragged her towards the residence. Hey, why are you grabbing my clothes? Let me go. Yi Feifei's hands tightly pulled the collar that was strangling her neck. The feeling of being carried away was very bad. She wanted to kick him with her feet, but he avoided her. Lung Shuang was watching from behind. Seeing the two of them like this, he smiled and followed them. When they reached the courtyard, Du Fan let go of Yi Feifei's collar and said to her, "You can stay here for now, Before he could finish his words, he was hit hard between his legs. It was so painful that he clamped his legs together. He wanted to cover it with his hands, but he couldn't reach them. He could only bend his knees and waist. His face was red as he twisted there. It was as if he couldn't breathe. His face was red. "Who told you to grab my collar? Are you trying to strangle me? Do you think I'm easy to bully? That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.